I'm going to take a story from a celebrity, particularly someone who's old, and just like kind of an interesting story that they have, and rewrite it in just a different tone using artificial intelligence. So I need to get this set up here. Share my screen. So something that was quite interesting that I was able to accomplish and do was I was able to I filmed a podcast, like recorded just a video with someone, and that someone told stories of a particular person, a loved one. And then I was able to rewrite that story as a letter in a first person perspective using AI. And it was pretty good. It was really cool. So I want to try to do that again. And I'm just going to ask AI to do the same thing. But maybe if there's a podcast or something where a guy is talking about a specific, like a guy in a podcast is sharing a story of of a specific person or something, then you could rewrite it as a letter to that person, or maybe rewrite it from a third person, rewrite it from the first person perspective of the person telling the story. There's a lot of interesting things to do. And that's what I've been doing for the Legacy Story Project initially, was, doing that, documenting a loved one who is sharing stories about that, and then kind of rewriting it. And obviously that person who I rewrote it for, that person was the final editor of like, okay, I'm reading it. This sounds good, blah, 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 blah. So let's do it. So I'm going to talk to AI here. I'm going to ask it if it can do this. Okay. So really quickly, with the Legacy Story Project, what I have done is I have talked with people around my age, and I have asked them questions about their parents, for example, and they have shared stories about their parents growing up, who they are, a loved one. And then using artificial intelligence, I was able to take the transcript and rewrite the stories that they were telling in a first person perspective as a letter. I want to do a similar thing, but I don't have another person to do it for. I maybe just take a YouTube transcript podcast of someone telling a story about a loved one, or not necessarily that, but maybe um, rewriting a podcast from a first person perspective or a third person perspective. But I just kind of need some ideas to go off of. So can you craft a prompt for me to give to you so you can research this stuff and make sure to ask me clarifying questions before continuing and making the prompt? So I guess it depends on the context. Like, if someone is sharing stories of a loved one, the first person's perspective to the letter works really well and is really powerful, because that person it's just like almost like a love letter in a sense, and it's very powerful. So I'm more curious about the rewriting technique itself. But like, for example, there was a podcast where someone was sharing details about the Shroud of Turin. And so, but like, they can't write a love letter to the Shroud of Turin. And I can't think of another situation in which I could write something powerful, rewrite something powerful using AI, other than the love letter, the basically the love letter to the loved one, right? By them just talking about them and sharing the stories. I'm having a hard time grasping what other scenario could I do that isn't that. Maybe instead of like the person talking about the Shroud of Turin, for example, that person sharing that information, maybe that person was talking about, maybe instead of a love letter, which doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. It's like a third person it's like a third person epic perspective on the existence of the shroud. It's like the shroud's the main character, and then it went through all these different things, and like it interacts with all these different characters, and that's how you do it. but I can't think of another example right now. So I'm asking you to try to create a prompt to research examples of podcasts that this could be used for. Make sure they're on YouTube because I need to be able to get the transcripts. So I hope that makes sense. This is really cool. I want you to keep it wide open. First, you want the prompt to hunt for the podcast themselves or to brainstorm the rewriting techniques first and find the podcast. I would brainstorm the rewriting techniques first and then find podcasts that fit each one, because that's what we really need to know. We need to know the rewriting techniques, and I want to be able to nail those down before. So nail those down first. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just dropping it in the new chat. So I'm going to the same project, and this will be the new chat, and see what happens. I like using the voice feature just because it's faster. I don't have to type, just talk. Most frustrating part about AI is waiting for AI to be done. It takes too dang long. Come on. Wasn't there that there was like this guy who built this app that like this extension that like plays ads while Claude code runs, and like I guess advertisers were paying him to like be on there, right? And then which is such an absolutely genius thing to do. I think he was up like to $1 million a month. I can't remember what it's called. Try to Google it. Stores. It went viral on X. I saw he was like, I'm making $1 million a month or something in like 5 days. I don't know. I don't know. But this is going to be really interesting. And if anyone is watching and they want me to get on a video call with them and ask specific questions about their loved one, we could write you a very, very detailed and caring, really loving letter in your voice using AI. And you can give that to your loved one. So if that's something you want to do, there'll be something in the description or whatever to do that. Okay, so let's see. Here's a toolkit, transcript, techniques, each with conditions. It thrives under the kind of raw materials, followed by a real YouTube hosted podcast whose transcripts you can actually pull YouTube audio as captions. A quick framing note before the techniques. The trick with all of these is that a spoken transcript hands you content, facts, feeling, sequence, but really the right container. Each technique swaps the container. The intimate letter is epistolary reframe. Epistolary? How the frick do you say that word? Epistolary. Okay, where's like the sound thing? Okay, I want to shoot myself. What's going on? Computer's crashing. Epistolary. No. Epistolary is the UK. Epistolary. Okay. Epistolary frame. Epistolary collapse a story that was told about someone to an interviewer into a first-person letter addressed to one specific person when it works best. Emotionally loaded material where the original telling was slightly performed for an audience. So a letter strips the performance and adds tenderness. Source material that fits interviews between people who love each other, where the subtext, I never told you this, is already humming under the words. Podcast, StoryCorps, whose entire premise is two people who know each other sitting down to ask life's big questions, and its animated shorts and conversations are all on its YouTube channel. Transcript where a daughter interviews a father about their adoptions are at 80% of the way to a letter. The camera pull, first person, third person. Take a raw, I did this, then I felt that monologue and rewrite it in a close third person as if a novelist were watching the narrator when it works best. Stories the teller is too inside to see clearly. Pulling back to she lets you add the physical detail and dramatic irony the speaker couldn't. The source material that fits unpolished, confessional, single voice storytelling. The Moth, where people tell true first-person stories without notes. 40,000 of them. The podcast and radio hour posted on YouTube. Each transcript is a first-person draft, begging to become a third-person short story. The Moth. Turn right to go left. Dude, I kind of want to play that game. Okay, I gotta watch this Alex Ramosi how to make so much more content. Is this the shooting in Milwaukee that happened? Okay, gotta watch that video. Okay, let's fart. What's it called? The Moth? The Moth is a nonprofit dedicated to art, craft, and storytelling. Since launching in 1997, The Moth has presented over 40,000 true personal stories told live without notes to standing room only audiences around the globe. The Moth produces 600 live shows each year in 20 cities worldwide. Just The Moth runs storytelling workshops for high school students, teachers, adults through education. The Moth is downloaded 90 million times. That's kind of cool. That's really unique. Cool. And not many views. Well, I mean, that would be a good podcast to listen to, you know? It's cool. Why do they call it The Moth? Why do they call it The Moth? Strange. Object as protagonist, the third person epic. Recenter the story on a thing and follow it across time and owners as if it were a hero on a quest. When it works best, histories where a physical object silently witnesses big human change. The object gives you a stable camera across centuries, source material that fits, design, archaeology, and history of stuff. Podcast 99% Invisible, Roman Mars show about the hidden design of everyday things, available on YouTube. It even ran a series literally built for this, a history of the United States and 100 objects, plus episodes like the Rosetta Stone, the artifact that unlocked ancient Egypt. Okay, pretty cool. 99% Invisible. This is a British thing. This is definitely a British thing. BBC podcast, British. Prosopopia. Let the object speak in first person. The inverse of number 3. Instead of narrating the object, become it. First person voice, raw and self-aware. When it works best. When the humor or pathos comes from the gap between a mundane object and grand emotion. Anything with rich sensory backstory you can ventriloquize. Ventriloquize? That's a word? Ventriloquize? Ventriloquist? Ventriloquistiquize is what I think it would be, but ventriloquize. Everything is alive. An unscripted show where every interviewee is an inanimate object telling its life story, and everything says is factually true. So on YouTube, it's already this technique. You can either study or move, return object. Okay, so it's giving me an example of it, but that wouldn't be a podcast that I would use. So frick you, Claude. You're not doing your fucking job. Frick. It's not giving me a podcast where that would work. A podcast where that would work would be the 99% Invisible, because I would be taking an object, turning it into a first person thing, and then having it go through these tortellini events. Mythologization. Elevate to legend. Rewrite an ordinary account in an elevated, near liturgical register, short sentence, incantatory repetition, the vocabulary of myth. When it works best. Forgotten or small lives that deserve grandeur. The register argues that this person matters. Source material that fits. Quiet historical footnotes. Podcast Memory Palace. Short lyrical essays about lost moments of forgotten people, now released as a video podcast. It's practically a masterclass in the register itself. Okay, but like, I don't want that. I want to be able to change. I want to be able to have the ordinary account and then make it into the into the mythologicalization, the legend. Ordinary account into legend. Ordinary account into legend. Genre transposition. Recast the whole thing as noir fairy tale nature doc. Keep the facts, swap the genre machinery. Hard-boiled noir cadence, once upon a time fairy tale structure, or hushed nature documentary narration. When it works best. Material whose emotion and truth is muffled by a dry delivery. The borrowed genre supplies mood, the transcript lacks. Source material that fits. Crime, mystery, morally ambiguous stories. Podcast Criminal with Phoebe Judge. Restrained, empathetic true crime storytelling on YouTube, and it helpfully posts episode transcripts on the website too. Criminal transcript recast in full noir is natural. Temporal restructuring, braided or reverse chronology, shatter the transcript linear order, open at the climax, run it backward or braid 2 timelines. Stories whose meaning depends on withholding or reordering information. A twist that lands harder out of sequence. Radiolab, known for non-linear sound design, investigative storytelling that loops into tours by design. Detours. Full episodes are on YouTube. Its transcripts already. This is interesting. Second person. As you did this, you felt that. Rewrite an individual account as a first-person plural core speaking for a whole community. When it works best, stories where the real protagonist is a group, a town, generation. Again, but reach for community. A practical tip if you pursue this: the shortest form shows everything is alive. Story core. Self-contained transcripts are far easier to transform cleanly than rambling out Radio Lab. So if you're experimenting, start short. And actually demonstrate one of these transformations. Okay, so we got some interesting stuff here. I think Claude didn't quite understand the nature of what I was asking it to do, because it says that would suit each technique, not that are the technique. So that would be suitable to rewrite into the technique. But it took podcasts that of some of the techniques that just were the technique. And that's not what I'm going for. So I kind of want to do the camera pull. I want to make a prompt first for each one so I can craft it, This is a lot of views. Okay, so this is going to be really good. So I have to go here to do this. So it won't let me do the transcripts on my account. I don't know. Create a highly detailed prompt to the camera pull first person to third person. So I can make the prompt. What is going on? I'm lagging like crazy. This lag is killing me. Whoa, please stop it, computer. This lag is killing me. Whoa. This is how the story goes. I'm in the thick of it. Everybody knows I went to the closet. Now I am home. Okay. I'm gonna have to do that. Okay, looky here. Let's look at this prompt. You're a literary prose stylist who adapts oral testimony into fiction-grade narrative. Nonfiction, you are fluent in close third-person point of view and free, indirect discourse. You respect the factually correct, absolute, elevating the prose. Transform the first-person spoken transcript at the bottom of this prompt into a close third-person narrative scene. This is the camera pull. Step just outside the narrator so the reader sees him as a character on the page while still living inside their perceptions. Edit these. Name on. Let the narrator subtly hint at what the character can see. In media res at turning point. Keep their idiom heavily, medium low. What does idiom mean? What's an idiom? A phrase or expression whose total meaning is different from the literal meanings of its individual words. Break a leg, piece of cake, keeps their idiom, dramatized. Okay, I'm gonna go new chat. Okay, I wanted to not do that because I can't edit this. Maybe this, and then this. Paste it into these three parts. Well, so what's her name? Do you have a name? Amina Brown. Past, present. Let's do past. How long can people talk for? Do 1200 to 1500. Let's do 1150 to 1550. Doesn't make any sense why I would want to change that. Just to raise the prose. Okay, so I need to look at this again. The voice fidelity knobs pull against each other. High fidelity plus high elevation is the hardest. I guess I'm confused. Describe what you mean by elevation and voice fidelity. Both are dials and meant to control how the prose sounds, how they govern different things. Easy to conflate. The controls the altitude of the writing itself, sense complexity, imagery, rhythm, how much language is used for effect. It's a property in narrator's craft independent of who the character is. Taking a plane grand trip, someone waited at the bus stop in the cold and run up these plane. She waited at the stop. It was cold and the bus was late. Clean, transparent. Literary. She waited at the stop, stamping her feet against a cold that had teeth in it, watching the empty road for a bus that wasn't coming. More texture. Lyrical. The cold came up through her shoes and settled in her bones, and still the road stayed empty, and still she waited, the way you wait for things you've already stopped believing in. Ah, okay. I understand. Higher elevation is riskier. Overshoot and grounded testimony turns purple and starts to feel like the writer showing off over their story. Literary is the safe ceiling. How much the character's own idiom survives the rewrite. This controls how strong the character's particular way of speaking, their slang, cadence, regionalisms, characteristic words bleeds into third-person narration. Through free indirect discourse, it's about preserving a specific person's fingerprints, not about how fancy the prose is. Imagine a transcript where a gruff mechanic says, "Yeah, the thing was a piece of junk, but she was my piece of junk, you know." High fidelity. The truck was a piece of junk, but it was his piece of junk. His exact idiom carries straight into the narration. You still hear him. Medium. The truck was junk, and he knew it, but it was his. Smooth a little, his attitude survives. His exact phrasing doesn't. Low. The truck was unreliable, but he was attached to it. Fully translated into narration. Aha! This makes so much sense. Okay. Accurate, but the main man has vanished from his own sentence. Low fidelity. Why they're separate dials? Because you can set them independently, and the interesting combinations come from mixing. High elevation, low fidelity, a gorgeous uniform literary voice that erases the speaker. Think polished magazine profile. Low elevation, high fidelity, plain spoken prose that sounds intensely like that specific person. Think a great oral history transcription that's been quietly novelized. High, the hardest and often the best. Lyrical prose that somehow still sounds like the character thinking. This is where free, indirect discourse really earns its keep, and also where it most easily collapses. The seams show when a lyrical flourish clearly belongs to the writer, not the person. The last combination is the one I flagged the prompt as tricky. If our results feel either flat or overwrought, those two dials are almost always the first to place to adjust, and moving them in opposite directions is usually what fixes it. So, should we just go for broke? High elevation, high fidelity? Can we do that? Let's do literary. We're in the middle. Wait, I changed it here. I'm not supposed to change it here. I'm stupid. Okay, I need to go back though. Well, I have the whole thing here, so okay, so go back here. Amina Brown is her name. I'm gonna say pass. Let's do 1200 to 1500. I'm gonna do lyrical. I want to see how it sounds. I want to do it. Dramatic irony. If on, let the narrator subtly hint at what the character cannot yet see. I'm gonna leave that on. Opening in medias res at the turning point. What? I already did this. Okay. All right. I need a transcript. Duh. So I'm gonna have a little bit of an issue here because gotta go back here. Copy. But the problem is I'm gonna need to clean this up. I'm gonna need to clean up the prompt. So okay. Whoops. How many pages is this? 51? Yo. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go new. No. Okay. Sorry. Nope. Not seeing my style. No. Aha. Brilliant. It's doing it. Okay, so I made a quick little prompt to get. Okay. Are we done? That's it. All right, here we go, bro. 3, 2. Let's go. All right, here we go. We're gonna wait. I think I gotta come back to this. But I appreciate the sentiment from all of you. All right, I gotta come back to this. I can't keep doing it, but have fun, everyone.